You point to me, I start.
Okay.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Sonm's monthly Q&A session here on YouTube. I'm your host, Andy Sachs, and joining us to answer your questions live from Sonm headquarters in Moscow. You know him, you love him. Here's Sonm CTO Igor Lebedev. Say hi, Igor.
Hi everyone.
So today's 30-minute Q&A session will include one new segment and one special guest. First, since Sonm is part of the blockchain world, and we know you follow blockchain as closely as we do, we'll take a few minutes to answer your questions about recent blockchain news. Then we'll move on to news and questions about Sonm, and I'll introduce a special guest from the industry to ask Igor some of the questions you submitted before the session and a few of his own. Finally, Igor will answer your remaining questions rapid fire in a big bundle there at the end. As always, if you think of any questions during the session, you can type them right into the comments field below the video window, and we'll answer as many as we can during the session. Before all that, let's touch on some recent Sonm news. And Igor, I understand that earlier this month, Sonm took part in the biggest IT conference in Russia for computing-intensive products and their developers called HighLoad 2018. Your team presented at the Sonm booth, and Sonm core team lead Yevgeny Safronov delivered a speech on decentralized punching. So what was that like? How did that go?
I think it was great. It was a major conference, and finally this conference was in Russia, so we liked it very much. And this time I was happy just to listen to someone speaking, so I didn't have a speech this time. So I think we did it great. This topic was interesting for professionals, so like, you know, making an interesting topic in their professional work raises interest to what we do. If we do interesting thing, then the project is interesting as well.
Got it. All right, Igor, what do you say? You ready to talk some blockchain?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. All right. Let's talk a little bit about blockchain. So we're getting into part one of the process here. And here's a topic that has generated a lot of interest. As all cryptocurrency prices have dropped recently, the price of Ethereum has dropped as well. And that's caused the profitability of GPU mining to drop along with it. So, Igor, you tell us, what do you think about that? Is it important?
Yes, it is important for some reasons. First, the cryptocurrency was in some degree, you know, overheated, and now we have a reasonable fallback. So, you know, there was a lot of people doing crypto mining with their rigs, and there is no exact number of crypto mining a rig which should be enough for Ethereum. So any kind of them joining the system would be fine. So if some of them will join or go, on one side this is not important, but when the profitability drops, many rigs just disconnect because they have higher electricity costs. So actually people started disconnected because of not paying for the electricity. So the mining rigs which are in some countries with higher electricity costs, for them the mining is already not profitable. But so we may have greater number of rigs being disconnected on one side, and that people will desperately look for some work to do, or otherwise their hardware is just staying still. On the other side, we can have 80% of the miners being shut down and Ethereum still being fine, because it just adjusts dynamically. So for us, the opportunity is that more equipment would be looking for work, and Sonm is a chance for them to join the system. On the other side, this puts down the profitability and the prices as well. So for any potential customer wanting to use the hardware, he may have a lower price at this moment. But on the other side, there is a complex thing as well, because at this moment, if some people have profitability of mining lower than the electricity, then they will disconnect and don't stay on Sonm even on the guaranteed profitability, because we guarantee you to have at least the mining profitability, but if it's lower than the electricity, you will anyway disconnect. So we had to raise some prices on our platform, so it will keep you like keep the incentive to stay on the network.
Got it.
For us, we see it mostly as an opportunity for our system.
Okay. Hey, there's a lot of talk recently about Ethereum switching to the Casper protocol using proof of stake and other improvements instead of GPU mining. So tell us, what's the deal with the updates and the improvements? Is that important? Should we care? What does it look like to you?
For me, it looks like, you know, the main feature that I'm desperately seeking in blockchain is scalability. The ability of the blockchain to carry up to 1 million transactions per second, because that number is required for any high-load system, any system which is in production. If someone wants to compete with Visa, they need tens of thousands of transactions per second. So to reach that, it's just sad, and mostly people believe that we need proof of stake. Because on proof of work we cannot reach that numbers, but so we need proof of stake for that reasons. For my personal opinion, this is the main reason for Ethereum to switch to proof of stake, to increase scalability. But on the other side, only proof of stake does not increase scalability much. It actually does not increase it at all. So for me, this is like an intermediate step. So I mostly wait for the sharding and scalability, and implementing proof of stake is an important step. There is a lot of philosophical debates around which is the correct way to do proof of stake. Should it be delegated proof of stake or true proof of stake without delegates? And there are some numbers of different attacks in these cases. But I'm not deep into that philosophy, and I mostly care about scalability. So for me, this is an important step which should be done. But the time terms were delayed for some years already, and we hope that something will be done in the upcoming 2019 year.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Also, there's been recent news that there are some decentralized computing products in the industry that are using Intel's SGX technology to improve security and trust in their systems. So just give us a little background on this. What's the deal with SGX? Is it important for security? Does it work? Should Sonm use it to improve the security of the applications that buyers are running through Sonm's own platform?
Yeah, the problem is that we have an industry-wide problem of, it's called a screwdriver attack or trusted execution environment. Like, you know, when we have computers which you don't have physical control over, you cannot trust them. And you cannot fundamentally solve it with modern technologies. And there are some exceptions, like Intel is providing its own technology, a set of technologies. One of them is SGX. It allows you to run an application software in a trusted way, which will have cryptographic guarantees to be not modified and run in some particular way. But so potentially this technology allows projects like us or Golem or iExec or similar projects to bring some security and trustness to what we do. But there are some important issues here. First, like in the typical scenario, a not modified program cannot run on that SGX technology out of the box, so you have to modify it. Or you can use some emulation techniques to make it run not modified way, but anyway, this brings you performance drawbacks, and they are very important because they are huge. The performance drawbacks greatly vary on the different payloads, so they may be close to not performance drawback at all, but in some rare cases, but mostly the performance drawbacks are very huge. So they are just huge. They exist and they vary, but they are huge. And you know, if you have if decentralized projects like Sonm or rather have value in that they have a cheaper hardware, so having this overhead just reduces this benefit. Second important issue here is that it doesn't support GPU. So this technology only allows us to secure software running on CPU, but the most profitable part of the hardware are GPUs, and they cannot make use of this technique. So if you want to run a software for machine learning that will run on GPU, we cannot secure this software with this kind of technique, and this is again very important. So actually, if we compare CPU and GPU, the GPU like performance is greater on CPU, like in a typical mining rig or computer with GPU. And SGX is only part of the CPU part, so it's maybe 1% of the total performance of the computer. It greatly varies on different applications, but it's very minor part of the overall PC performance. And the third drawback is that it's vendor locked. This exact technique is not supported by AMD. ARM may have different implementation, AMD may have different implementation, so it vendor locks you to only Intel chips. Given that drawbacks, it may work. So we in Sonm currently, we know about this technology, we estimate how to use it, but we see a different way to use it. We don't think that just putting any software in that secure enclaves will work. Instead, we want to secure the whole machine using this technology and then run the software without performance drawbacks. But this is a more complicated approach, which is not yet done. So my point is to understand the pros and cons here. This is my point.
Okay. I'm with you. All right, good. Well, thank you for walking us through the blockchain news. I hope all our viewers found that useful. We're going to continue with some questions from the Sonm community about Sonm. And as I mentioned, we have a special guest with us today to do the asking. This is industry professional, I'm going to get his name right, Viacheslav Akhmetov. I hope I did that right. Viacheslav is a Sonm enthusiast. He's a member of the Sonm community. He's the winner of the Sonm Fog Computing Challenge we held in June. And he's also the author of an article on Medium called How to Run a Custom Application on Sonm. So, Viacheslav, welcome.
Hey everybody.
All right, so Viacheslav is going to ask Igor some of your questions from the community and a few of his own based on his own expertise and knowledge of Sonm. So, Viacheslav, take it away.
Yep, so the biggest question is about adoption. So prices drop, and how do you plan to attract more suppliers?
If we talk about suppliers, I think we can talk about this by now. We have some subsidizing of the deals on the platform. I think we can tell that we pay some more price than just plain Ethereum gives, and this is important at this particular moment when just plain mining is not covering the electricity costs, so we increase the amount of money that person earns on Sonm. We do it to promote the system. So on the other side, I think adding new customers will also increase the value of the platform for the suppliers. And we already built up a new website. We implemented new installer, and currently we do a live USB option. So more features for suppliers. Also a monitoring feature is on the way, which will help you to plug in 10 or more mining rigs as one supplier. Because currently if you have 10 or more rigs, we don't provide monitoring out of the box. You have to mess around with different software. So additional features, additional earnings, that would help the adoption, as we think, and additional advertisement.
Okay, and what about hosting providers? Did you try to cooperate with them so they can sell their resources for the Sonm token?
Yes, here I see two questions. Yes, we try to communicate with them. For many of them, I mean, if we talk about major and big hosting companies, for them the costs of the Sonm platform, the profitability of the Sonm platform is in many cases below the level which is acceptable for them for their business model. And particularly paying with cryptocurrency is pain for them. So 2 points here. We need to establish a way to pay with regular currency, which we currently work on. And some of them will never join because they just have higher margins, because some platform offers lower prices. But some of the companies which we call cloud hosting companies, which are small, which have special offer based on consumer grade hardware, they will join us because for them this price level is okay. So this is what I think.
Okay, and also for adoption, it's about entry level. So we see that to run some task, we need to have to pass environment variables to Docker images. So the most of the available Docker images on the networks are using arguments from Docker CLI. So why don't you allow to pass arguments, and we need to convert every image to support environment variables?
Yeah, I understand this question. We have discussed it a few hours ago. The reason for this, the initial reason for this was that we have different kinds of consumers with different level of identification on the platform. And for the customers which are anonymous and for whom we allow only some particular images to launch on the system, we have to limit the ability to call Docker server directly with the parameters Docker support, because otherwise they would be able to launch custom anything. You know, even if they use whitelisted images for Docker, they may use Docker API just to call whatever they want, particularly to mount volumes and launch different system utilities to do harmful things. So that anonymous users which we kept on the system are the main reasons which we don't, why we don't provide direct Docker API access. But for the rest of the customers which are identified, we potentially could allow the Docker native commands to be used, but even in that case, that allows you to do some things. You know, Docker, as you know, Docker CLI allows a lot of commands and parameters, and it particularly allows you to do some things which you shouldn't be able to do on Sonm, like to mount a volume from a host file system and see some files which should not be accessible by you in normal cases. And the number of such cases and potential vulnerabilities could be high, and we don't want to estimate all of them. We just don't allow you to use the Docker API natively and directly. So we provide you like our own API in which we have control over what you do. This is the reason for that. Maybe we will change this in the future, but at this moment it is this way.
Okay, so now to fully use the Sonm platform, we need to pass a KYC so we can run custom applications, and it's pretty expensive now, and you need to expend a lot of time to make it work. Any alternative for current KYC system, and maybe some other way to identify users?
Yeah, again, different points here. First point is that you know, there are systems, decentralized systems, which don't allow you to do really harmful things. Like Ethereum doesn't really give you a way to do something harmful. But with Sonm and being able to launch any custom application, you can do bad things. So we cannot offer to give you an ability to launch anything you want without identification. It's just not possible because we are in a clear mind. So the only way here, what we can do is to simplify and make it cheap, make it easier the identification procedure. So currently we have only Cryptonomica, but we are working with more firms to provide identification with lower prices and greater simplicity. Currently we are talking with Shifty Pro. It's another KYC provider which will probably be added to Sonm in some near future. With them, we will be able to provide cheaper KYC with not higher than 5 USD, as I remember, and it will be simpler generally. We also have a whitelist set of software which may be run anonymously, and this whitelist will grow in the future as well. So this is the options at this moment. Okay,
and now KYC is available only for consumers. So what about suppliers? When will you add the KYC for them so we can have some kind of rankings, reputation system, or SLA? So
okay, talking about ratings and SLA, this feature is already being implemented and it will probably be released this year according to the roadmap. This feature will work without identification at all. It will be just peer-based reviews on each peer onto another peer, and it will support SLAs as well as part of the deal. So it will just work until the end of the year. Talking about the identification of suppliers and professionals, we are already launching this one. We have a set of companies, first candidates to be given a professional status on Sonm platform. This will be done again until the end of the year, maybe faster, maybe even this month. We will see how it will go. So these are two different questions, and the identification for the companies will work a slightly bit different. You know, as a person, as a customer, you may do KYC identification on your own, like self-service. Just pass a link on the website and do everything there. For the companies, there would be a slightly complicated process because at this moment we see the data centers connected with our own eyes, and only then we give them the professional status. But later we plan to again plug in some external companies who will outsource this work of connecting trusted parties, but this is the future. So at this moment this is slightly complicated.
Okay, and while using the platform, it's lack of different filters. So Fog is pretty dynamic environment that consists of different equipment with different capabilities. So do you plan to add some filters like CPU instructions, memory frequency, some type of hard disk drives benchmarks and so on?
Yes, actually some of the items you mentioned we already plan to work. Actually, we plan to make a major update to the list of the metrics and benchmarks which we have. They will have particularly supported CPU instruction sets. They will have some benchmarks related to memory and disks as well. We will also support different benchmarks to distinguish between AMD and NVIDIA graphical cards, particularly CUDA support and OpenSSL support, or OpenCL support, sorry, and number of others, particularly related to network, to IP addresses and ports as well. So these are planned in the big update before the end of the year, which will update the market as well and brings a lot of new features as well. So there would be a great list of new benchmarks. Okay,
nice. And what about ecosystem around the platform? Do you plan to add some service discovery, DNS, or other services that can help build more distributed and high availability services on your platform?
You know, at this moment, as you for sure know, because you work with Sonm, we give you the ability to launch containers, and we don't have such a thing, such an entity as a service on Sonm platform. We have only containers running, only tasks running. So the plan is to support Kubernetes and later to support serverless and function as a service. By that time, we will probably have something like service discovery, but not at this time, because we don't have, like, you don't do service discovery if you have infrastructure as a service in the way we do it. So later, yes, but as part of the cluster support, as Kubernetes support and function as a service support at that stages. I think that way.
Okay, and what about IPv6 only? So currently we can choose this as an option, and only IPv4 public IP address is available.
Yeah, we have tested and it works with IPv6 now. We had some tests, but it's not, I think it's not yet production ready. As part of the update before the end of the year, we plan to support additional network features, as I mentioned, and they will include working with ports and also working with IPv6 as well. But it will greatly vary on for the supplier. His internet service provider should have IPv6 available, so it will not be supported by many suppliers which ISPs don't support this, but it will work for those who will support. So yeah, this is a part of our scope. We plan to do it in the near future.
Okay, and
particularly because IPv6 allows greater connectivity with nets and firewalls, particularly for that, because it works more reliable. We'll have more port options, more options to launch servers. Actually, it solves a lot of things on Sonm. So yeah, it's important to support IPv6, but the problem is about the world support for IPv6, which is not yet like covered everywhere.
Okay, and some suppliers have more than one IP address per node. And what about allowing to run multiple IP addresses on one worker?
Yeah, again, we have thought about this issue as well. The plan is if the worker, if the supplier has multiple IP addresses, okay, there are different cases. If he has IPv6, he'll have unlimited number of IPs, so we can offer one IPv6 for any task, so this is not a problem. If he doesn't have IPv6 and he has multiple IPv4, we will give an ability to sell IPv4 as part of the deal. So if he has multiple, if he has only single one, we give the ability to sell the IPv6 as part of the deal and sell only one item of exclusive access to ports of a lower range, like system ports and lower range ports, and the other tasks and the other resources he may sell on this machine with single IPv4 may make use of how to say it in English? Okay, the upper range ports. So if he would like to launch a Counter-Strike server, which is like 27,000 ports range, many customers will be able to do this on one machine, but only one of them will have like privileged access to lower range ports. If you want to launch a web server or something like that from the lower range ports. So yeah, we thought about that. Would be in the upcoming features.
Okay, nice. And what's the next big step on technical side, so that will lead to huge improvement on for the platform?
Okay. You know, the improvements of the platform may be divided into different categories. From the general usability, we expect a lot from ratings and SLA, particularly for the SLAs. We need SLAs on the platform for people to trust it. And for SLAs to work, we need ratings and reputation, because ratings and reputations are the enforcement methodology of SLAs as we see it on our platform. Also, if we talk about the platform general, like friendliness to cryptocurrency field, to decentralization, we see for the master nodes, well, we look for the master nodes in the next year, in the first quarter of the next year. Also, what is important, a very important step would be to develop a fiat gateway and a service provider who would be reselling Sonm for fiat money with SLA and fiat money. That would be a very major improvement to the platform. So again, new benchmarks, as I mentioned, particularly for the network, some improvements to the working with ports and AP addresses to be able to launch different, like gaming servers, whatever servers. What else? Different benchmarks for NVIDIA and AMD cards, which would be important for machine learning tasks specifically. What else? Extending the whitelist again. Actually, I mentioned most of them, and also geo support, like geolocation support for the workers. I mean, for the customer to be able to choose workers only from some specific locations. So
okay, and Kubernetes will be also the big step.
Yeah, it is a big step, but it's not like it's not launching tomorrow. It's in the research and development still. So the Kubernetes is a matter of the next year. So I was talking about the features which are very close to being implemented. Yeah, if we look into the distant future, yes, first major step would be Kubernetes. I mean, on the platform level, the Kubernetes, and after the Kubernetes, we look for the function as a server. You know, the serverless execution. It's a way to write your application in a way that it scales automatically. And again, we also work on some application-specific cases like video rendering, which you know, at this moment you may launch video rendering on Sonm with your hands on your application side, manage the workload on the application side. But we want to provide a ready-to-use service which will be able to run out of the box and render something. So
okay, and one last question. So I see that you have new challenges in roadmap. Will it be for Kubernetes or some other technologies, or it's just planned and you don't have any topics now?
We have a lot of challenges actually, some of them bigger, some of them smaller. The big challenge is to connect the traditional old world and the new world of decentralized system. This is very important because the source of the customers and payments would be from the older world. So this is a big challenge. Some great challenge is related to maintaining security and privacy on the platform, which is probably the biggest challenge of the whole idea and the whole project, and not only of the Sonm project, but from the different projects as well. So
yeah, but I meant about developers' challenges, like
you mean the challenge as we did the previous year?
Yeah.
Yeah, there were some ideas about to make a new challenge, but this is not yet finalized, so I cannot tell neither the dates, neither the terms. We have some ideas to run a new challenge, which you probably like because you participated in the previous one, but I don't know the dates, I don't know the conditions, so just check the news or write us directly. When we will be ready, we will particularly tell it directly to you. So.
Okay, I think I'm done with my questions, so...
Okay.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
We have just a couple minutes left, so we're going to run on quickly to what we're calling the question blitz. Just when Igor thought he was done and was taking a quick breath, we're going to ask him to just answer as many of your Slido questions as he possibly can, as fast as he can, and I won't even ask the questions. He'll just rip through the answers to save time. Igor, whenever you're ready and you've caught your breath, take it away.
Yeah, sure, no problem. Actually, yeah, we have a different set of questions for today. One of them is from Slido. For those who open that page may see that page is filled with pain, disaster, and everything. But this is explainable because if you look at the cryptocurrency market for the last days, you will feel pain, and this is something we understand. So obviously, as we see, and like honestly, we think many of the questions were written by the people who could be considered as trolls, but we don't know who of them is who, so we trust everyone. I mean, respect everyone, because we don't know whether this person is troll or just honestly asking a question. So we will cover most of them for which we have time. So I will not read the questions. If someone interested may read them on the slide, I will just give some answers until I'm tired. Okay. So okay. The number of the tokens on the sidechain, it doesn't change greatly. This is true because we have put a lot of tokens initially, and we give test tokens for many people trying to use the system. So this is the reason. We have put many tokens inside the sidechain initially, and then we just give, how to say, airdrops for people who would like to use it. Actually, if you want to try to use Sonm, you may send us a message saying what project would you like to test. We will just send you a couple of tokens, maybe 1,000 tokens if you would like to test it. So this is the reason. Big barriers to attracting new customers and suppliers. I think I mentioned them already. This is the ability to pay in cryptocurrency, the electricity costs for suppliers. Okay, if we talk about the customers, this is the ability to pay with cryptocurrency and the problem of trust and security. For the suppliers, you know, we met suppliers who are saying, yeah, on some you earn 10% more, 20% more, but that's not enough. You're a wealthy company. Why don't you pay us 50% more or double the times more? Why don't you do that? You're a wealthy company. Because we don't think this is a serious approach. So, okay. About the prices, you know, I think no one controls the price really. Some people may think they control it, but they actually don't, because I made an experiment some time ago. I've told about it in the chats. I've took some price in BTC, in Bitcoin, in Satoshi, and I compared it with a couple of projects of the similar profile with Sonm, particularly with Golem and Exec. And I've noticed that the price difference is pretty much similar, like the relative price graphs. It raised at the end of the previous year when there was a high rise in cryptocurrency, then it dropped, then it raised before the consensus, and then it dropped again. Not any partnership, not any release does influence it at all. It just rises and drops according with the general cryptocurrency market. So if someone thinks he influenced this, he is wrong. About the hotels, actually, how did you say about our hotels, Sandy? I think you had an opinion about the hotels we stay in.
Saw your hotel at Hong Kong that you stayed in for the Cloud Expo Asia show last summer, and I can tell you it wasn't fancy. It was more functional than fancy. But
you know, for some people, the reason behind this question may be that, you know, any hotel except for living in his own house may be considered fancy and good place of living. But yeah. Actually, we had a funny talk about this question previously yesterday, because when we was preparing for the Q&A, and one of our teammates complained particularly about this question, saying, I will send you a screen from my hotel reservation, which I used previously, and he had 1-star hotel, $300 for 3 days stay. So it's so not true about the hotels. Okay. Negotiations with companies to trial Sonm. Yes, we have a lot of them. Actually, for companies trying to use Sonm, one of the biggest, not biggest, but yeah, a major challenge is not even the Sonm itself, but containerization of their software. Many of the software companies, which companies try to use it, were not directly ready directly to launch in containers, so they currently try to launch in containers. It's not difficult, it's just something that could be done, but even that makes problems for them. Sorry, just a second, I will disable the sound. So next, we don't command the funds we have, because particularly if you talk about me, as I told, I'm an employed manager to manage the software, the product, etc. So I have a budget, so I can control my budget. I can like hire and employ people and make tasks, but I cannot talk about the funds. And probably someone else could tell you if he wants. When adoption works, etc., etc. So I'm just skipping the questions which I'll repeat in the previous one, and it doesn't bring any sense. What's changed since the last Q&A? A lot of things changed. Actually, since the last Q&A for the last months, we had our suppliers base growth up to 2 times. We have Ethereum hash rate growth twice. Number of deals grows to the similar number. We are ready to make first professional suppliers, which will be probably this week or maybe within a month. So yeah, we had a lot of changes. But the cryptocurrency dropped, as you see, so it ruins everything. It ruins the mood of people, because they're not happy with the results we have now because of the cryptocurrency market. Speed up adoption, biggest challenges, we covered this. Phantom companies, yes, sure. There was a question and accusation that team somehow misused the tokens, but actually this is not true, because the tokens which are held by the companies, the 10% and the 9%, they are still on the addresses which they are like, which it should be. It's not sold, it's not spent. It's just not true. I was talking about 10% Ethereum hash rate. Yeah, there is a question about this. When visiting Consensus, I was talking with a lot of major mining companies, and I estimated that if we combine the hashing power altogether, that would be like 10% of Ethereum, maybe more. It's hard to bring them on the platform. Some of them have brought some test rigs on Sonm, a number of them. Few, like 2, some of them brought 5, etc. So they're evaluating this, and particularly this time of the Ethereum price dropping is like a time of changes, so it's complicated for them to make decisions at this moment. Electricity and master nodes, it's not related. If you run some master nodes in the future, it's not about electricity. It's like the electricity costs to run the master nodes are very, very minor. It's not like even comparable. So master nodes is not about electricity. Working and mining is about electricity, but not master nodes. Master node is a very lightweight software that doesn't need much of the electricity. Ban everyone, etc. I think the questions are repeating.
All right, and we're pretty close to out of time. You want to pick maybe one more, and we'll finish up with that.
Okay, let me find something interesting. How do you plan on getting faster adoption, including plan B, C, D, E, F, if plan A doesn't work? Well, we have some strategies, as I mentioned. We already subsidize the deals, and we increase the percentage of subsidizing. We have some thoughts again, but I don't think we should tell you plans A, B, C, D, E, F, etc. So I think we should close this.
Okay. All right. Well, I want to thank Igor very much for his time. He's just been through a marathon Q&A sessions. We appreciate all of the information he's delivered. We want to thank all of our YouTube viewers for joining us. We appreciate your time as well. Hope you got some valuable information out of it. And we will see all of you soon at our next YouTube Q&A session or on a trade show floor somewhere. Thanks very much, everybody. Have a great day.
Have a great day. Bye-bye. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Viacheslav.
Bye.